Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stuck at Home Sports. I'm Ethan.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Luca.
And Matt, what are we doing today?
Talking about sports.
Thank you. This is our 22nd episode, believe it or not. We continue to keep pushing more episodes out, and we're going to start uploading them more and more frequently and get some more content out to all of you people that are bored, because now that we have no school, we have plenty of time to post. So our today's discussion is we're going to be talking about the MLB and their whole new plan I believe as of today, there's been plenty of proposals, plenty of disagreements, to say the least. Starting off with back in March, the owners and the league actually came to an agreement that they would hopefully have an 82-game season. However, this would include pay cuts. And as time progressed, and now that it is June, the players have become angry and believe this is an unfair agreement. And they have basically disagreed with this agreement. So now the MLB and everyone is up in hands. They're all trying to come up with a new plan, which the MLB came out with a new plan, actually, to include an 82-game schedule that would include universal designated hitters. This means pitchers don't have to hit every single time, which is huge. And it's for the traditionalists or the people who like tradition, this is the worst possible thing. But for anyone that just really wants or is tired of seeing pitchers strike out every single time, this is huge. They're also going to be having a 30-man active roster. They're going to with a 20-player taxi squad, basically, since the minor league is not really happening anymore. They're just going to have a bunch of players as a practice squad, kind of like the NFL has. And then they're going to have a 14-team, basically, playoff in the postseason in the home cities in October. So this is the first idea that looks like it's going to be the one that they're going to agree on, but there are still more discussions about the financial parts of it. But we also had some more discussions where the MLBPA tried to come out with a 114-game schedule, which is just a lot more games that would be played. This would be played from June 30th, which would start earlier, which is a pro for us because sports, but it would go all the way to October 31st. That's the regular season going that far. So that is a very, very long time. And actually today it was rejected by the MLB, so you could scratch that idea out of it anyway. And then as of June 1st, MLB owners try to come out with a 50-game season, which is a lot shorter because they would want to save money and basically make the season go quicker, because that's what plenty of the other leagues are doing, which logically I think would be a good idea. But the fact that players would be taking more cuts and financial, I see what they're coming from. So there's so many debates over all this stuff, and between the players and the owners going back and forth, basically. But how do you guys believe the MLB season should?
We've been in a dark time, I think, for the past few months with lack of sports and lack of ways to keep ourselves entertained. And I think we're a month and a half away from that being over. I do. I have confidence, I have faith, and I have hope that we're a month and a half away from the stoppages of everything being over. And I think that the MLB is going to be my biggest concern, though. Say that again, Ethan?
This is coming from you being the Mr. Negative
yeah,
man.
I'm trying to keep myself in the positivity range here. Doing everything I can. But, I think that the MLB is going to have the hardest time getting back. We've seen the issues with them and the Players Association. I think they will be the final major organization to return to the big stage. I think the NBA and the NHL have plans set in stone, and they're ready. They're going to get going whenever they can. I think the NHL and the NBA are probably going to start around the same time, late July, possibly early August for the NHL. We saw today the NBA, and we'll get to that in a minute, announcing that they're going to have a whole set up from July 31st to whatever. I think the MLB is going to have a harder time getting back because they're used to a 162-game schedule, and they don't play in the snow. So they have to find a way to get this done before the snowstorms and winter comes in. And so they're going to either have to, A, cut down their season to a point where they can finish before that becomes a concern, or B, skip the season.
So I like how you mentioned how they're going to have the hardest time coming back, because you are right. The last 2 years, I have seen the revenue they've generated go down. It's almost like the MLB is going to fight to come back because it's going to be on a player's lockdown almost. Last time that happened, I believe, was in the 90s. But as I speak at the moment, the sides, which include obviously the players in the league they still remain several miles apart in how they are going to resume play. So obviously the league's first offer was the 82 games with the sliding pay scale. Okay, fine. And personally, as a fan and a viewer, I definitely like that, because 162 games, it's just too much. It drags and drags and drags. People want to be entertained. They don't want to have to watch some clueless, some useless regular season game like the Cubs and the Pirates. Like, we know the Pirates are tanking, the Cubs are declining. We get it. And then we all know the 82 games, the players respond, I'm like, nope, we want 114 games and our full prorated salaries, and that season's going to go from June 30th to October 31st. Obviously, you guys have said this already. They cannot play in the snow. I've never seen really many games that have been played in the snow. And those prorated salaries, the players would earn 70% of their pay, which is why it makes sense they would want this. Now, the players' assumption in offering more games is that the owners make more money if more games are played. However, that is not true. In this case, all these games are going to take place in empty stadiums. Their position is that if there are fewer games played, they're going to lose less dollar, right? It's hard to disagree it's hard to disagree with the ownership on this part, because if there was going to be more money played, if more games were played, then why on earth would they disagree with that proposal? Wouldn't make much sense. So I'm going to say, I think they should play between 50 and 82 games. We'll split it. And the reason for that being is because if they only played 50 games beginning in July or at the end of June, whenever it is, players would only get 31% of their total salary. The reason that is bad is because there are players only making $2 million, $1 million a year. That's pretty bad if they're only going to make 31% of their total pay. Meanwhile, you got the Bryce Harpers, the Manny Machados, you got the Anthony Rendones. It really won't make a difference in their total pay. But for someone who's making only $1 million, that's going to take a significant downturn for them. And another reason this 50 games thing is not going to really work out is a player might hit 180 in those 50 games. And we know cold stretches like this, they happen. And even to one of the best players in the league, like someone like Christian Yelich, it just happens and it does not look good. Player compensation in baseball, such as the 82 proposal, it seemed more like a desirable number, but ownership, they don't want to pay fright for the amount. So this is why having a shorter season is that it opens for both sides to bring potential in some additional money through options such as that we're not able to fit under a plan by cramming in games, such as you got an end of the year home run derby, a skills competition, an all-star game, and of course an expanded postseason. So it would make the financial picture of the MLB look better. So that's why 50 to 82 games may work better.
Yeah, so I see this, I know I compare the two, but I see it as basically another episode of Pawn Stars. I mean, Rick Harrison, we got him sitting up at the top. We said, like, the guy comes in, says asking for 114 games. And then Rick Harrison out of left field is like, no, I want 50 games. And it's like they're just going to be going back and forth until we find the happy medium. And that's what usually happens unless those people don't really budge and Rick Harrison doesn't budge. But they're going to look to find that happy median where they have that just the right amount of games that the players are happy about it. They're getting paid for their certain amount of games, and the owners are happy because they're getting paid for their certain amount of games. So that's why it's going to look good. I know that the players are very, very worried about all these salary cuts. But like you said, they getting paid millions and millions of dollars. And people like Bryce Harper, I mean, the man's getting paid till he's 40. 1 year's not going to hurt his life.
He's a third of his team's payroll. So I think it's time to just calm down for him.
Exactly. I mean, your ego's up here. You need to take it down for 1 year or 6 months or whatever, however long the season is. But it's just, I think this MLB, the players need to realize that if you want to play a season and you don't want to go through a lockout and don't want to lose money completely, then try and come up with a bargain that actually agrees with both sides instead of going extremist like they're asking for 114 games and extremists acting for 50. So I do believe that I've heard some talks that they are letting up and they're beginning to start agreeing on this 82 game deal. which is great to hear. It's because obviously you said with the All-Star game, they got to add all these All-Star games and all this stuff, which who knows if that'll still actually happen with a shortened season. But if they should still be able to have a chance to, and we'll see what they have in store for us. But I hope that the MLB will try to start sooner or later, and basically we'll see.
Yeah, the other thing I would say that worries me, not just for MLB, but for other sports too, if we get a second wave of COVID-19, that's going to even put us even further back. So that way we have to be very cautious on how we do this types of things, and players must get tested and all that kind of stuff. So we got to be careful. Players need to be understanding of what the league's trying to do, because the league, as you guys know, they're basically hanging on a cliff right now because of all the economic downturn they faced last couple of years.
Yeah, and by the way, they're with this the salary cuts that they had, the MLBPA, one of their biggest things they're pushing for is allowing players to actually opt out of the 2020 season if there is another wave of COVID-19. So this really could be some scary stuff, because what happens if you're playing and then obviously the second wave happens, but it doesn't really do much, but people are worried about this, and all of a sudden we have Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, we have basically Mike Trout, we have all them begin to opt out. Is people going to watch the MLB? What's going to happen to MLB? Is it just going to be a bunch of minor leaguers playing against each other by the end of the season? What's going to happen? Do they really continue the season? So that's a lot of things that are up for the grabs. That's why I think that I don't know if it's a good idea that they're going to be allowing it, but I understand from a player's perspective for health concerns that this would be a good idea, but it's definitely frightening. I think if the MLB is, or at least the MLBPA is looking to protect them, they have to add some type of thing that allows, that basically kind of forces these players to play if worse comes to worse, because at the moment, this COVID thing is starting to slow down. And if there's a second wave, I think we'll be more prepared than the first time when it hit us and nobody knew what was going on. Now that everyone has masks, we're following social distancing. We're continuing to do this, following these ideas. That's why I think the second wave will be there probably will be a second wave. I just don't think it will be as bad and as great. So this speaking as a positive perspective, but besides that though, I think this opting out is scary, but I think it's a smart idea for these players, and you just got to be careful with what you do.
Ultimately, the MLB does not happen without players. If you can't satisfy them, there's absolutely no way you can get a season to go on. And so as much as I dislike the opt-out, it's the only way I think where the players can feel comfortable and satisfied with the season. And that my concern is that the NBA would follow this trend and all the other sports would follow this trend. But if there is indeed a second wave of COVID, the chances are we're back to sitting in this spot where we are right now, and these leagues don't come back yet. The guarantee is this: if we get a vaccine within the next, I don't know, can we throw out a number of the next 6 months? Let's try that.
Sure.
If we can get a vaccine within the next 6 months, get all the players to take it or vaccinate for COVID, you can try and get us back to it. You can try and get back to as normal of a life as you can with these sports. The thing is, for so many people, sports is a grand escape from things like these. Not having them leaves a lot of people in question. They don't know what to do. They're kind of lost in a way without sports. Slowly but surely, we're going to get some of these things back. But they have to be careful. Every league, it's not just the MLB. It's the NFL, it's the NBA, it's the NHL. Hell, it's even the PGA Tour. They need to be careful with everything that they do, because they do not want to have to do this again. They do not want to have to stop their operations and continue to lose millions and millions of dollars.
All right. I think that's it for our basically 22nd episode and MLB debate over how the season should go. That was our opinions. And besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.
Later.